Welcome to Biology, the scientific study of life. Tipworms. Tipworms class Cystoida are also parasitic as shown in this video. The adults live mostly inside vertebrates, including humans. In many tipworms, the anterior end or scolex, as shown here, is armed with suckers and often hooks that lock the worm to the intestinal lining of the host. Tipworms lack a gastrovascular cavity. They absorb nutrients released by digestion in the host's intestine. Absorption occurs across the tipworm's body surface. Posterior to the scolex is a long ribbon of units called proglottids, which are little more than sacs of 6 organs. Mature proglottids loaded with thousands of eggs are released from the posterior end of a mature tipworm and leave the host's body in feces. In one type of life cycle, human feces contaminate the food or water of intermediate hosts, such as pigs or cattle, and the tipworm eggs develop into larvae that insist in muscles of these animals. Humans acquire the larva by eating undercooked meat contaminated with cysts, and the worms develop into mature adults within the human. Large tipworms can block the intestines and rob enough the nutrients from the human host to cause nutritional deficiencies. An orally administered drug named niclosamide kills the adult worms. Rotifers. Rotifers phylum Rotifera are tiny animals that inhabit fresh water, the ocean, and damp soil, ranging in size from about 50 micrometer to 2 millimeter. Rotifers are smaller than many protists, but nevertheless are truly multicellular and have specialized organ system, as from this video notes that. In contrast to cnidarians and flatworms, which have a gastrovascular cavity, rotifers have an alimentary canal, a digestive tube with a separate mouth and anus. Internal organs lie within the pseudocilium, a body cavity that is not completely lined by mesoderm. Fluid in pseudocilium serves as a hydrostatic skeleton. Movement of a rotifer's body distributes the fluid through the body, circulating nutrients and wastes in these tiny animals. The word rotifer, derived from Latin, means wheel bearer, a reference to the crown of cilia that draws a vortex of water into the mouth. Posterior to the mouth, a region of digestive tract called a pharynx bears juice trophy that grind up food, mostly microorganisms suspended in the water. Rotifers undergo unusual forms of reproduction. Some species consist only of females that produce more females from unfertilized eggs, a type of reproduction called parthenogenesis. Other species produce two types of eggs that develop by parthenogenesis, one type forming females and the other type developing into simplified males that cannot even feed themselves. These males survive long enough to produce sperm that fertilize eggs, which form resistant zygotes that can survive when a pond dries up. When conditions are favorable, the zygotes break dormancy and develop into a new female generation that reproduces by parthenogenesis until conditions become unfavorable again. It is puzzling that so many rotifer species survive without males. The vast majority of animals and plants reproduce sexually at least some of the time, and sexual reproduction has certain advantages over asexual reproduction. For example, a species that reproduce asexually tend to accumulate harmful mutations in their genomes faster than sexually reproducing species. As a result, asexual species should experience higher rates of extinction than lower rates of speciation. Nobel Prize winning biologist Matthew Michelson of Harvard University has been studying a class of asexual rotifers called Beduloida. Some of their 360 species of beduloid rotifers are known, and all of them reproduce by parthenogenesis without any males. Paleontologists have discovered beduloid rotifers preserved in 35 million years old embryo, and the morphology of these fossils resembles only the female form, with no evidence of males. By comparing the DNA of beduloid with that of their closest sexual reproducing rotifer relatives, Michelson and his colleagues concluded that beduloids have likely been asexual for much longer than 35 million years. How these animals manage to flout the general rule against long-lived asexuality is a puzzle.